There he is.
Yep. They're on top of us here.
They're on top of us, man. Got him. Oh yeah. I got one left. We got a sniper back there.
Yeah, got a guy back there in the thing here.
See if we can take him out. He's about 70 yards away.
I guess we're done.
We're done for the day. Guys, welcome back. This is Kevin and Eric here from Moss Pawn and Gun. And today, in case you can't tell, we're going to be talking about some cap and ball revolvers here. Anytime we get the black powder stuff involved, I like to have Kevin out because he's not only a Civil War enthusiast, but generally a black powder firearm enthusiast as well. So we got a couple of models here. These are guns that would have been used in the Civil War and that era. Okay, the one that I shot here is a 1860 Army. Okay, this one is made by Uberti, but they're imported by Cimarron. All right, it's pretty true to the original for the most part. There might be some minor differences off of the originals, obviously, because they are very old revolvers. Cap and ball revolver generally refers to a percussion cap that fires a black powder charge, a round ball as a projectile. It has a rifled barrel. We'll show you the loading procedure. They do require a very specific and careful loading procedure, not only to make sure you don't hurt yourself,
right,
but to make sure the gun's going to be accurate and safe to handle. The gun that you're handling is a Navy version.
Right, it's a 1851 Navy. It's in 36 caliber, and this one obviously 1851, 1860. This one came first. It was called the Navy revolver, but it was used by the Army on both sides of the war. And the easiest way to typically tell the difference between the two would be this one had the Navy has an octagon barrel, and the Army has a round barrel. Now there is a 61 Navy that has a round barrel, but that's for another discussion. The 51 Navies in 36, the 60 Armies in 44, and other than that, they're pretty similar. There's a good bit of differences. Now, the 1860 Army was the holy grail of cap and ball. That's what Colt was after for a very long time, to be able to make a 44 in this size. Before this, it was the Dragoon and the Walker, which were basically horse pistols. And so the ability to make this came from metallurgy. It was spring steel was able to make this. Before, they were made out of wrought iron. Right, and so that's that was obviously had to have all that gun to withstand the pressures back in the day. So this was the holy grail of what Colt wanted, to have a belt pistol in 44 caliber. And like there's a big difference. The reason the barrel is rounded on the 61 or on the 60 and 61 is because it was just easier to make. It was cheaper for Colt to make. It's easier to polish a round surface versus 8 sides of a barrel.
Well, it also makes sense from not only the manufacturing standpoint, but also weight savings. I mean, an octagonal barrel would probably have a little bit more weight versus a round barrel overall. But yeah, the guns are awfully fun to shoot, guys. We're going to show you the loading procedure here in a moment. There in the intro, we were kind of pounding some steel. You can hear that round ball, it hits with a pretty good bit of authority. Even if it's a 36 versus a 44, both of them have their place. Both of them have a good purpose. I've shot the 36s. I took a lot of squirrels growing up with a flintlock and 36 caliber, 36 caliber round balls. So I'm used to the 36. It's generally flat shooting, really good velocities, especially out of something like a flintlock rifle, which that's a discussion for another day. Guys, we're going to get some flintlocks out. Also, a matchlock. That's going to be fun.
That's going to be beyond cool.
But yeah, these guns are just full of interesting history. Now, one thing I want to mention about these guns both is that obviously, guys, they are reproductions, okay? There are originals of these floating around out there that you can buy. They are very expensive and highly collectible. Most guys that have them generally don't shoot them.
Right.
And if they do, they baby them to the utmost degree because of the value, not only historically, but monetarily. The reproductions are very high quality. Most of them are Italian. Okay, so you got like Pedersoli, Uberti, what a few of the Pieta. So they all make very high quality guns. They're all made very, very close to the originals, as close as they can. Like he mentioned about metallurgy, okay? The metallurgy on the modern guns, they can certainly take a good bit more powder and generally just more use before the frames start to stretch than the originals would.
Absolutely.
So this is a gun that not only is it a reproduction that's way, way cheaper, like 10% of the cost of the original, but it's a strong gun you can take out and shoot all the time and enjoy it and kind of scratch that itch and just have fun with it.
Have beyond fun with it. If you want to shoot black powder, these are the way to go.
Absolutely.
This is definitely the way to go, is getting one of these.
Yeah, just to give you an idea, I mean, a gun like this one retails anywhere from $300 to $350, and most of them aren't above $300. Like you mentioned, the Walker earlier and the Dragoons, you know, some of the larger frame guns that have just more physical material that they're made out of, obviously are going to be more expensive.
Right.
You know, little 36s like this one, Kevin picked up at a yard sale.
Yeah, I paid $30 for this at a yard sale.
$30.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
right, and these can get shipped right to your house.
Yep.
You don't have to go through an FFL at all. You could buy this from Moss, call me up on the phone, buy it, I send it to your house. It's that easy, no FFL needed.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's anybody. So,
right,
you know,
that's what I'm saying.
Any dealer
right,
can
any
do
dealer.
that. But yeah, let's show you the loading procedure. I think you're going to get a kick out of it. An interesting thing to sort of note before we move on about the loading procedure is that really each of these revolvers kind of has its own little reloading press built into the gun. Okay, this little arm hinges down, all right, and it pushes your ball into the cylinder. We're going to go over that here in a moment, but this was really one of the first instances, especially in a military pistol, or really any kind of pistol, it really revolutionized that to where you could really experiment with different projectiles, experiment with different powders, and you didn't have to change the physical configuration of the gun. You could experiment with a low charge, a high charge, a bullet of a different weight, a different style of bullet, like a conical or something, and find out what shoots the flattest, what shoots the best. You know, a certain charge and bullet combination might shoot to point of aim a little bit better. Tell them a little bit about Kentucky windage real quick.
Yeah, my gun, for instance, shoots about 6 inches high and probably 2 inches to the left. So you have to just manually do that. You can file your sights down and do stuff like that. You know, Wild Bill Hickok, he carried a 51 Navy. I mean, you know, the single action Colt's around and he's still using his 51 Navy. He just loved it that much. He knew what he had and he had it right. And, you know, he was one of the best gunfighters ever. So you can definitely get as spot on as you want. It just takes some filing and this and that. But generally, you just kind of do a holdover on them. That's the Kentucky windage. That's where it kind of came from.
Well, most soldiers in the day, you know, if they were issued, you know, any of these types of guns, whether it was the Walker, the Dragoon, the 1860, the 51, any of them, okay, they would generally just practice with their guns, figure out where they were hitting, and guys in a combat situation, they would have to impart that Kentucky windage to know exactly where to aim in order to hit center mass on their opponent.
Right.
Let's go over the loading procedure.
All right, sounds good.
Let's do it.
All right, guys, we're here to show you the loading procedure here of the cap and ball revolvers we have here. This is a pretty universal thing when you're dealing with cap and ball. Definitely the exact same on Eric's 1860 for my 1851. On the table here, just some basic stuff you're gonna need if you're gonna start doing cap and ball stuff. You have your mallet here. It's made out of wood. You can use plastic or whatever, and that's just for driving the wedge out. Like earlier, I had to clear that cap jam, so I had to take my wedge out and do all that. Here you have Jim Shockey's Gold. This is a 3F. You're going to want to use 3F when you're dealing with pistol calibers. A substitute is really easy to get, and it is the only substitute actually that I will use. It's awesome stuff. That also next, we have the powder measure here in the flask. This powder measure is set for 40 grains at the moment. That was for Eric's gun. And then this one here will throw the charge that I need out of the spout here directly. And as you'll notice, these are both made out of brass. The reason for that is you don't want anything that could possibly make a spark. Next here you have boar butter. This stuff is actually really awesome. This is what you're going to use to grease the chambers. This stuff here will actually season your barrel if you use it long enough. Kind of like you think of a frying pan when you put eggs on it and it won't stick and it's easy to clean up. Same basic principle. So it'll season your barrel and make your cleanup a lot easier. Have my number 10 caps here, my 36 caliber balls. That will actually change depending on what size gun you're using. And then I have my little Victorinox Swiss Army here. That's just for, you know, the screws and whatnot. It's actually perfect for that kind of stuff. So we're going to go over here. You're going to want to put your gun on half cock here. That enables the cylinder to spin freely. I'm going to take my powder measure here, or my flask. And I'm going to throw this straight into the cylinder. Now, a lot of people will put a patch over this. I don't necessarily do that, especially if I'm just range shooting. You have your ball here. You'll put that on top. Then you'll put it directly underneath this ramrod here. That just unsnaps at the front there, and it'll come and sit right on top of the ball. And then you'll just ram it home. Now you'll notice, I don't know how easy it'll be to see, there's a little lead ring here. You're going to want to see that in every single projectile you'll do. That'll be actually what prevents your chain fires. So you have that little lead ring there. It'll fall out. It's sitting here on the table. So I saw that I have that. So that's good. So that chamber is definitely good. I'm going to do that 6 more times. Now that lead ring, when you're putting it in here, actually it seals the ball. It's a gas seal. So that's really what keeps you from having chain fires and all that. That's why you want to see that. Also keeps, when the powder goes off, too much pressure coming out the sides of it, which you do not want. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and grease these chambers here. This also helps prevent chain fire, but also just keeps your barrel, it lubes your bullets right up. So basically, it's kind of a dirty thing. You're just going to kind of put it on there, but you just get it, rotate it around, and just kind of blob it in that hole. Don't worry about making it too neat, because actually the forcing cone, when you spin it around, will smooth it all out. And then it all just blasts right off of there anyway when you're shooting the gun. So this is just one of those steps you can do to make life a little bit easier for yourself. So there you go. See how they're nice and done? On the other side of your thing here, you'll just clean that up. Now we can go ahead and cap it. These are number 10 caps. And just put them right over the nipple like that and spin it around. Just do that 6 times. All right, got our caps in place. Grease this thing up with some more butter. Let's shoot it and have some fun.
All right, guys, we've gotten the guns topped off here. Kevin's going to shoot his 51 here for you in just a moment. I'm going to be shooting the 1860 Army. One thing of note is that on the cylinder you have a safety notch that interfaces with the hammer, and that safety notch drops on there and holds the cylinder in a half rotated position in between the caps. Soldiers would generally carry them that way, although some folks would carry them with, empty cylinder just in case. But for the purposes of the video, we're going to be shooting 6 rounds. Cock the hammer. When the hammer's cocked, the sight picture is obtained from the notch in the front of the hammer. All right, let's shoot it. And I'm going to explain to you guys what it means to do a cavalry cock. All right. We're going to shoot it one-handed, much like they would have done, manual of arms originally was one-handed. All right, so you fire the shot. When you cock it, lift the gun up. The spent percussion cap will generally just fall right off the back of the gun. That's to keep the spent percussion caps from getting caught up in the action, causing it to seize up. A little bit of extra time, but you can certainly do it. Got him. All right, I got one bogey way back there. Let's see if I can pop a long shot. He's about 70 yards away. See if we can hit him. I'm going to cheat and use 2 hands. A little bit low. Oh, he's eluded me. I might have to try him a little bit later. Let's try one of our sodas there. Just to the side of him. Maybe I didn't do it right. I may have to try one-handed. There he goes. Awesome.
All right, guys, Wild Bill Hickok lent me his 51 Navy here. Had a couple of ruffians at the edge of town he wanted me to take care of. Figured I'd get the job done here. See what I got. All right. All right, cool. So that kind of brings that into that. I've had a cap jam. The 51s and the 60s, they were all notorious for this, right? So the gun's completely safe. We don't have a problem. There's actually a cap behind this hammer right now, which is preventing the hammer from hitting the next thing. You know, you guys look at this stuff and you think, oh my gosh, all these problems are going through. This was state of the art. You had 6 shots. That was awesome. This was better than anything they ever had. The 51 Navy, when it came out, was extremely popular, right? So on this Navy here, you have the cylinder. It has a naval scene on it. That's kind of where it gets its name from. And Colt put that on there. It's for the Texas Navy. And it was the Battle of Capatchie, I believe is what it's called, that the Texas Navy won. And they had originally bought the Colt Patterson revolvers, which this was kind of Colt's way of saying thanks to them. So he engraved on the 51 Navy and the 60 Army still had the Navy scene on it. So that was kind of cool. Also, a couple of differences between this one and the one that Eric has is the forcing cone on the 51 Navy, it's actually longer than it is on the 60 Army. That's because the 60 Army uses the same frame as the 51 Navy. That was part of the thing that Colt wanted. He wanted it to be very similar to this gun. And so all they did is they shortened the forcing cone up. The water table here had a notch cut out of it for the 61 to compensate for that 44 cylinder. And other than that, they were pretty similar. The grips were a bit larger on the 60 Army than the Navy. And the Navy even, they went back to these grips for the black powder frame Colt and all the rest of the single actions. They went back to this size. So a very popular thing to do then was to take the grips off of this gun and put them on the 60 Army. And they go right on, it's the same frame. Also, the loading lever is a little different. On this one, it's pretty much just a pivot point. It goes up and down, right? On the 60, it's a rack and pinion actually. It's just a little bit stronger, not really a big deal.
All right, we got the 1860 topped off again. Kevin did excellent there. Of course, he's a good shot with a cap and ball revolver. One thing about accuracy, I guess is what I want to talk about. These guns lend themselves to very good feats of accuracy, but just like any other black powder gun, as they begin to get fouled, they get leading in them. I think those last shots that I fired, you know, I just cleaned a bunch of leading out of the lead. Might have been getting some bad accuracy due to fouling and leading, but with a clean gun and set up properly, get your bore butter in the cylinders, get them capped off. I've shot these things out to about 100 yards. Now, of course, they're not made to shoot that far, but it's just interesting that they can be quite accurately if they're loaded very carefully. So I've got a nice clean barrel in this thing. I very carefully loaded it. I'm gonna try my 70-yard gong again because he's just laughing at me. I've gotta hit him. So let's give it a try. And I am gonna cheat and use two hands so I can hold this monster still here. Here we go. Right over the top of him. It's amazing how high these guns will shoot generally, even at 70 yards away. I'm gonna try to aim just a little bit lower. There he is. Okay. There it is. Those dang caps, they will stick up in the gun if you're not careful. Right over the top. It's amazing how high these things shoot. Wow. So guys, one thing to keep in mind is how high these things can shoot generally. I'm going to try to bring my aim down. I'm aiming all the way at the bottom of a 24-inch gong. So the thing's shooting like literally a couple of feet high. Let's try again. I'm going to cheat it just a little lower. There it is, right in the center. Awesome. I'm going to get her reloaded to try again. Get Kevin over here to give it a try. These things are just a blast to shoot. I guess that's one thing I just want to make sure I push home with this video. Cap and ball revolvers are so much fun just to get out and challenge yourself with. And one thing about these that's very interesting, especially you know, the 1860 compared to some of the others, but you can get conversion cylinders for these for 45 Colt. So from a perspective of having, let's just say, a gun that you don't have to have any paperwork to buy. You could order a cap and ball revolver, order the conversion kit, order the hammer, and you got a 45 Colt that nobody knows about. Kind of interesting. I'm going to top this off. Kevin's going to step in. Let's keep it running here.
All right, guys. Apparently they didn't get the message last time, so they've come back into town. I've got my trusty 51 Navy here. See if we can teach them a lesson. Let's go for a couple of those sodas there. Ooh, just to the right. There he is. One more. Oh, I just missed him. Now another thing about these 51s is this one here, this particular one, is a steel frame. They did make them out of brass. You know, during the war, you know, everything was just so scarce, they actually made these out of brass. In fact, in the South, we had a cottage industry that took church bells down off the things, melted them down, and used the brass from church bells to make guns. So, you know, you will see these in brass. You have London models of the Colt. There's all kinds of variations of this gun that you can really get into and look. But let's load up Eric's gun and let's let him get one more go at it.
All right, guys, we got the 1860 top back off. You know, our soda gallows are looking a little full. I think we need to deplete a few sodas. Let's see what we can do here with our cap and ball. See if I can hit them one-handed. Little jokers are tough to hit there. See if I can nail them with two hands. All right, one more. Let's see if we can get the one next to him there. Ah, just to the side of him. These things are wicked fun to shoot. I think Kevin's gonna have another go and we'll close it out. These things are great.
All right, guys, they keep on coming down here after the townsfolk, so I'm gonna have to give them another shot with my 36 and see what I can do here. All right, guys, I had one cap that didn't go off. It's the nature of the beast, and that's why they still carry swords and bayonets and stuff, right? The only way to unload this is to shoot it, so I've had to go get a fresh cap. We're ready to go. I've got one shot left. So let's see who we can ring with it. It looks like they all got two each except for that one round, so let's give it to him. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm having problems. They're still coming. It looks like I'm gonna have to enlist Eric's help. We're gonna have a 60 and a 51 and see if we can finally get these guys to leave these townsfolk alone.
All right, Kevin, well, I heard you had some problems at the edge of town.
Yeah, I'm gonna need some help.
All right. Well, I see here that old Prairie Dog Pete showed up, Popper Dan, and his brother there.
Together.
They all showed up for the fight.
Nothing but
Let's
trouble.
take them out. I'm gonna take out the Prairie Dog first.
You do the right, I do the left.
All right, ready? Got him.
Got him.
Got him. Good?
Something like that, yeah.
These old guns, man.
I know it.
One of those things.
I'm glad I had you here to back me up. I got another cap jam.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, guys, you know, we hope you enjoyed watching today's video. These guns are a blast to shoot.
They are.
Whether you're just hanging out with buddies at the farm, kind of doing your thing, or whether you're into serious competition, the guns can be finicky, as you've probably seen throughout the video. Anytime you're dealing with such an intricate system, such as a cap and ball revolver, with so many things going on, there's a lot of factors that can go wrong.
Yep.
But when everything comes together in unison, the guns tend to lend themselves to not only a good bit of fun, but also kind of protecting a little bit of heritage involved in it too.
Absolutely they do.
Certainly a good thing to remember the heritage involved with the guns,
Absolutely.
where they came from, who used them, the wars they were involved in, kind of helps you appreciate everything.
Right.
Kevin, I appreciate you coming out to the farm.
Oh, not a problem at all.
Yeah,
I
man,
always
for
enjoy
sure.
it.
We've got a lot more black powder stuff on the way, guys. So we've got some little bit of flintlock stuff, even some matchlock stuff.
Some very rare stuff.
Yeah, some rare stuff coming up. I can't tell you just yet because we want to make sure it's a surprise.
Right.
But anyway, you'll be seeing more Kevin in the videos. We appreciate it. Catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.